Book 9 of 2019 was The Establishment, and How They Get Away With It by Owen Jones. This book is very heavy on the politics. Like, if you really enjoy politics, you'll probably love it. It's not my favourite kind of topic. It's not something that kind of like fires me up and I'm like, yes, I want to find out about that. Like, I find politicians like a bit annoying on what they do and stuff, and I always think like basically what Owen Jones is saying, that a lot of people that are in those jobs shouldn't be in those jobs because it's not based on merit, it's based on the privilege and how they've got there through the establishment. So I think like hearing more about them just irritates me even more. I think anyone who, I don't know actually, like when I listened to it on audiobook, I think don't most people know this about politics and know this about the establishment and stuff. Like, I just kind of thought that it was a bit obvious, but then there's a chapter on how like the media, like papers and stuff, influence politics and how they report on certain stories to kind of change the viewpoint of the country. And for example, they will put a lot of stories about benefit fraud and stuff like that, but they won't put as much emphasis on when rich people are tax evading. I mean, they do more so now, I guess, but initially it wasn't like that. And so it's kind of like trying to shape your views that you should be more like, everyone's always saying like, oh, those benefit scroungers are taking all my hard-earned cash or whatever, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, the people that are actually making your life more hard work and taking money off you are the people that are higher up, who are like, you know, the actual book was talking about these companies that bid for subsidies from the government and then go bust and don't deliver on the product. And so they've taken hundreds of thousands of pounds of your hard-earned cash, and far more than anybody that's scrounging benefits. I would not call it that, but that's the terminology that's used by people. Like, far more money than that. Like, it's a bit ridiculous to kind of focus on people who are poor and are probably claiming money because they need to eat, than, you know, or warm their houses or actually have a home at all. And you've got people who are part of the establishment that are stealing money all the time, and it just doesn't get reported, and because it doesn't get reported, people aren't aware of it and think that it doesn't go on. And it was, you know, the book Owen Jones is talking about the banking crisis, and obviously that's been in the media and people are aware of that, but that had been going on for years. Like, I read a book called, oh, what was it called? Damn it, I can't remember what it is. It was all about like reselling of mortgage loans and stuff, and it was really high on the short or something it was called. Very high in what's the word? I can't speak today, I'm tired. Very heavy on economics, that one was. I can't remember what it's called. I've read it. It's on my Goodreads if you look on that. It's been a film as well. So yeah, Owen Jones kind of like talks about bankers and how, like, he doesn't go into a lot of detail on it, but he does kind of discuss how like they basically caused the economic crisis, and yet, you know, no one's kind of like getting those people out of those jobs. Like, there's people that are still in those jobs, still doing probably the same thing but just on a lesser scale, and, you know, nothing's really being done about it. Owen Jones talks a lot about the police and how the police were very corrupt and could be bought off and stuff, and talks a lot about like Thatcherism and kind of the politics that were happening around that time. So, you know, if you don't have any understanding of what kind of went on and stuff, it's quite interesting in that sense. I don't really know that much about the history of politics. I only kind of am aware of like politics since I've been socially aware, like as I've got older. So it was kind of interesting to find out things like that, and how like there used to be such an opposition between political parties, and now they've kind of, you know, now they quibble over the same issues rather than being for one side or the other, which is probably why most people don't really want to vote that much, because like, what's the point? You're not really, you know, backed by like your values and stuff aren't really represented just by one party, like, you know, that your values might be across multiple parties. Oh, I've just wrote a review on it and I can't remember what else that I said. What was the first thing that they were talking about? Oh, let me just have a look at my... This is terrible, isn't it? I've literally just wrote it. Like, my brain is not working today at all. This is what, like, a busy day does to your brain. Did I just write? Oh, that was it. About... So, Owen Jones was talking about how companies, so in business, give money to the government, well, to MPs, to political parties, and that will change policy and what they suggest. And I kind of thought, well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? Like, everything's kind of motivated by money. You only have to look at America to see that happens. So it obviously happens in England as well. And things like, you know, the reason why businesses get such a great deal is because they're funding the political parties. Like, they have to kind of, you know, for example, Conservatives, like, a lot of their backers are businesses. Like, there's businesses that have got in to be an MP, to be in the Commons, like, to vote on policies and stuff. It's just bizarre, isn't it, that, like, yeah, okay, it's great, we've got business people that are representative, you know, of society, but it's, you haven't got every, you know, Tom, Dick and Harry in the Commons, like, to be able to make it a democracy. It's definitely, you know, leaning towards one kind of sector of people, one kind of, like, privileged elite, and the rest of us kind of, you know, I mean, I'm not suggesting that I'm, like, down the bottom end of society or whatever, but in comparison I am, and I just think, I don't know how these people can I don't know how anybody with lots and lots of money can just keep it all to themselves. Like, there's people who have nothing. Like, how can you do that? Like, you know, you should earn enough to get by and then kind of, like, help out with people. Like, why don't we do that? Why are we not better human beings and, you know, help other people out? Why are we so obsessed with getting, like, massive houses and cars and, you know, fancy clothes and stuff, and thinking that that's what's important, like, when there's people that can't even feed themselves? Like, why are you not helping people out? You know, there's this fallacy that if you work really hard, like, you'll earn loads of money and you'll get really rich. And I've discussed this on previous book review vlogs and things, that it's just a fallacy that the establishment want you to believe. Like, they want you to believe that if you work and you do everything that they say that is the status quo, that you will then become what you want, which is rich. But that doesn't happen for everybody. Like, you can work really, really hard and be paid minimum wage and be in, you know, private rental property, which is sky high because the government have sold up all the council houses, you know, and they're paying transport fees because they're not, you know, they've been denationalised, you know, like, and the food prices have gone up because we're in trade disputes with different countries or whatever, and we will be when we come out of blooming Europe. So it's kind of like, oh, I just lost my I was just thinking of Brexit there. I was like, completely lost my train of thought. You know, yeah, I'm not going to talk about Brexit because this will be too long. So I'm just going to stop there. If you really like politics and you are interested in, like, the sociology of the establishment and how it's kind of in the media, it's making people think that this is the right way to be, and how we should, you know, demonise people that have to claim benefits rather than demonising the people that are actually corrupt and taking money for subsidies that they don't even deliver on, and that kind of thing, then yeah, it's a good read for that. But it was too politicky for me, and it wasn't in as much detail. I thought that the things that he was talking about was pretty obvious, and it just got me angry to listen to it.